Hello future people, welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today we're unboxing some very short Angry People. So, this is a boring looking box. So, a couple of months ago, we looked at a Kickstarter from Greebo Games for their Chaos Dwarves, and mine have arrived. So, I chose the option that did not have the helmets, because I'm not a huge fan of the silly big hats. I know it's a selling feature of Chaos Dwarves, it's just never been something I like the look of. I don't like the look of the traditional Chaos Dwarves, I never have. It's a personal thing. It doesn't make them bad, it just means I don't like them. So, we're going to have a look at these, see what I ultimately think of them, and at some stage later this year, I'm probably going to play Blood Bowl again. Well, I know that this isn't a thing for everybody, but I do want to say that that is a really nice touch. It doesn't really take much. Presentation is already on point. So this is the first time that I've ever actually brought a product from Greebo Games. It is, however, a company I've been following for quite a while. The reason that I've never actually brought from them up until now, honestly, to a large extent, is I just wasn't playing Blood Bowl at all. It's just not something I was playing. And by the look of this sleeve, oh, that's a nice touch. As I said, I've never purchased from Greebo Games before, so I wasn't aware of this. But, rather than the outside of the box, the sleeve becoming a waist, you've got number markers for the bottom of your bases. That's actually really good. I have to admit, the actual artwork on this is really nice as well. Alright. The inside box is rather simple and fairly generic. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Legalese. And the bottom of the box is blank, because all of the important information obviously is on the outside. Alright, so here we're getting an idea of our very first mini. Already I'm super impressed. I mean, there was 3D renders of these on the Kickstarter, so I did know a little bit of idea of what I was getting, but now, because this is resin, a lot of these points and stuff, you're going to have to be very careful. It does look like I've had a couple of little breaks here already. They are going to be fragile, because resin is a fragile material. Nothing super flash underneath. You wouldn't really expect it though. Hello future people, Editing Bruce here. Just going through this video, and there's something that I'm noticing at this particular point of the video that I kind of wasn't really sure how to react to at the time, because I wasn't 100% sure that I was right in what I was saying. But at this particular point in the video, what I'm noticing is that these minis are actually 3D printed. They're not cast at all. They are just 3D prints. It definitely tarnishes what I feel would have been a very positive review otherwise. And if you don't have a problem with this, all the more power to you. I mean, the sculpts on these minis are absolutely amazing. They are. But I'm going to be showing you something in a few seconds, which is the description of what their Greebo blood is. And if you look at it closely, you will actually see that it does actually tell you that they're 3D prints. But it does it in a way that I feel is very deliberately confusing. And honestly, I feel is deceptive. Because they talk about what their old process was and then what their new process was. But they don't actually say this is 3D printed. They just kind of talk around it. That's how it feels. For the price that I paid for these, I don't feel receiving 3D prints is acceptable. So this is a negative review, and honestly, the first negative review I've really done. So, this is the start of their spiel directly from their Kickstarter. This can also be found directly on their website. In the last months, we have set up with collaboration with specified company. Now, I'm going to kind of skim through this at this point. Firstly, a prototype is made with a specific 3D printer that has a very high print quality, specifications and characteristics, which allow the creation of high definition prototypes. The prototype is then used to either create a vulcanized rubber cast or mold for metal production, or core-cured silicon ones. So this is actually the description of how most miniatures are made today. Not all, but most. But it does continue on from here. Now we would like to offer Greeblood. No longer a copy of a copy, but directly the prototype in its original form and richness of definition. So what they're describing here is literally the 3D print. That is what they're saying here, but they're not actually saying it specifically. To obtain the best possible results, we collaborate with 3D printer companies to create a special resin, Greeblood. So they have their own specific resin, but they don't actually tell you at any point what this special resin is. I suspect that it's a mixture of a couple of different things that are fairly common, quite frankly. The problem that I have with this is that because of the way that they do it, you can very easily read past the fact that this is a 3D print. And that is what I did. I mean, it does tell you this, but it does it in a way that feels like it's deliberately deceptive. Now, maybe it's deliberate, maybe it's not. Like I said, this is just how I feel about it at the time. I'm now going to return you to the video. Like I said, these miniatures do look great, but I'm unhappy because honestly, I wasn't expecting a 3D printed miniature, and I don't feel that they disclosed that clearly enough. What I can tell you is what that looks like is sparkles underneath. Appears to be evidence of actual 3D printing. That does disappoint me. But in saying that, there's no evidence of it. There's no layer lines or anything. Which is really weird. I don't know. These weren't entirely cheap, so I was expecting that I would have been getting actual proper resin minis. I'm not someone that has an issue with 3D printing. I own one. The issue I have is I assume that these are left over from the casting process. And if I had a resin mold, if I had a resin prototype that I was using for the cast, I would have cleaned that up first. And I think most customers would expect that you would be cleaning that up first as well. I mean, it's not like any of us are surprised that 3D printing is used for the prototyping process. But if this is just a 3D printed model, I'm going to be very upset. I don't believe these are 3D printed. Honestly, I think that is just stuff that should have been cleaned up before the mold process started. Sculpts on these are amazing though. And this is all one piece too. There's nothing in this I've had to build yet. Yeah, hobgoblins. A little bit of flashing there. No, so there's definitely casting process because that's evidence of it being casted. So that is a good thing. I don't think I can entirely be blamed for having suspicions there for a few minutes, though. So this is why I really like the fact that there was a no helmeted option. Because whilst most people do like the traditional minis. Okay, so this one is one I'm going to have to build. So this is one that I'm going to have to build. It's very clearly the top half of something. So I'm going to leave that aside for now and keep going. Nice, really crisp detail. Like, this stuff is really nice. All of them are unique. They definitely feel like Chaos Dwarfs. If you weren't into Blood Bowl, you could very easily use these as Abyssal Dwarfs as well. Another one of the Hobgoblins. I love the fact that the Hobgoblins actually have some muscle on them. And they're not just, you know, little skinny, runty things. The other thing that I have in here are 4 tails. I expect that they are for the larger creatures. Okay. So here we have the bottom half of one of our pieces. But that's not for the one that I have. Here we have the bottom half of the mini that we were looking at earlier. So that would go something like that. Gonna have to grind down those just a little bit because they obviously are interfering at the moment, but it looks like that's going to fit nice and flush. Hopefully. Might be a little bit of warping there. But absolutely gorgeous. That also needs a top half. That is definitely the better of the two. Because, quite frankly, if I didn't know that they were 2 different pieces, you wouldn't be able to... Like, there's nothing on that that tells you that it's 2 different pieces. They look like they're one. That's definitely the most superior out of the 2. Minotaur. You'll usually get arguments as to whether it's worth taking a Minotaur or not. I would argue that you still need to own one, regardless of whether you intend to use it or not. But the thing I like about this is it fits with the team and it doesn't just look like a random monster that you've added. Because if you use the Games Workshop ones, obviously they don't really fit for Blood Bowl. I don't know if I don't think they've remade the Minotaur yet. Oh, they might have been. Not 100% sure. But that's just... It's a really nice, chunky thing. Look out. We have another head option. Okay, I stand corrected. That is the body that goes with that head. And it's much nicer. So, do I have another horse body in here? I do. I think that means that this one is the one that I was expecting. Still need to trim down the top though. Another hobgoblin. Again, I really like the fact that these all clearly come from the same thing. And you've got genuine options here. Really, really nice. Now, as for the tails, I'm just going to pick one at random. So the tails would be coming like that. They actually work quite well. If I grab another one, do they all work quite well? Yep. So you've actually got options there for your tails. I imagine. No. Your Minotaur doesn't have a tail. But you do have 5 tails. All of which... No, I stand corrected. 4 tails. I also have an extra arm here. So, who's missing an arm? Aha, this gentleman. So that arm... That's nice. He's actually got a handballing pose. I quite like that. So he's just punted the ball off. Alright, well, that's one box. I'll tidy this stuff up and we'll get to the other one. Alright, and here we have the second box, which has our bases. They're all very exciting. So, first things first. We do have our... I'm going to call him our coach. He's kind of like in a throne, so he's kind of like a king. In the stuff that was loose, we have a couple of wings, ironically for the same side. So I'm kind of hoping that we have more in the box somewhere for the other side. We have this very steampunky feeling ball. Still has that same 3D printing texture on the bottom. I can't help but wonder if maybe I've just misread the Kickstarter. There's this rope or whip looking thing. That's obviously going to be an additional piece for something. It might be a tail, perhaps. And one final ball option. Again, all of this feels... It's got the rough 3D printed texture on it. We have a knocked out Minotaur. I really love this. We have our mascot. We've got our ticket vendor. These are all our bonuses from the campaign. This is a demon thing. Now that obviously would belong somewhere else. We have a token, which is a ruined dice. I love this. Here we have a stunned Minotaur. Kind of looks very cute. Try to get that image out of your head. We have a Chaos Dwarf cheerleader. That's just all kinds of brilliant. Another stunned Bull Centaur. Wait, were they both Bull Centaurs? No, so one's a Minotaur, one's a Bull Centaur. That is a generic token, I believe. I believe that's to keep track of things. And then we have a knocked out Bull Centaur. I really like those. However, I very clearly have a mistake here. I'm not 100% sure what these are supposed to be for. I assume they're for the demon, but I've accidentally been sent the same part twice, as opposed to being given one for each side. I will have to reach out, I suppose. So, that was our Drwavageddoom from Greebo Games. This is something that I kickstarted, so obviously I was excited for this. There is a couple of things that concern me. I mean, I've seen evidence of what appears to be 3D printing on the minis. I'm hoping that's just that they were prototyped and then cast. But I find it very odd that those gates are still there. I'd be very unhappy if I've paid a significant amount of money to find out that I've brought what was 3D printed. Editing Bruce here again, folks. So we're at the end of the video. I do continue talking after this point, but I'm replacing what I'm saying here with what I know now. These minis are definitely 3D printed. There's no question about that. I had 3 or 4 other people check them and give me their opinion, because I wanted to make sure that what I was saying was true and that I wasn't just being mistaken or being biased or anything like that. I make a point of trying to be positive with all of my reviews. Not because I'm trying to be biased, but because, generally speaking, anything that I feature on this is something that I've bought with my own money. I don't tend to buy stuff unless I want it. Yeah, there's probably arguments that could be made that I should have read between the lines and realised that what it says means that it's 3D printed. Part of that fault lands on me. However, it's my opinion that if you're spending the sort of money that you are on these, that if they're 3D printed, it should be stated in black and white and not talked around the way that it feels like it does on the campaign. I feel that when you're buying this, at the point where you're clicking that button, it should be very, very clear what you're getting. And I do not believe they're doing that. Personally, I feel that they're not doing that on purpose. I'm not saying that they need to be giving out their STLs or anything like that. No, of course not. Though I'm sure that there's people out there that try to claim that. But no, that's not fair. They are entitled to make a business. However, ultimately, I'm not happy with this product. It's not a product that I recommend because of the way that I feel that it's been advertised. This is the first real, serious negative review I've ever done. And that fact isn't lost on me. If you have less of an issue with it, I mean, the sculpts are beautiful. But given how I feel about the way it was presented, I'm not going to be painting these. These are going to be shoved back on in their box and added, not to the pile of shame, but to the pile of, I probably shouldn't have brought this. Very disappointed. And I will not be buying from Greebo again. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you're enjoying the content of this channel, please like and subscribe. If you're in a position to do so, please check out patreon.com/gettingtabled. You receive early access to at least 80% of all videos that we put out, and you get access to the video edition of all of our podcasts the day that they're uploaded. If you'd like to check us out on social media, facebook.com/gettingtabled is the most active. We also have a Discord server. You can email our team at gettingtabled@gmail.com. If you're on either Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. And until next time,